Oh, it's time. Hello and welcome! I am Zabraxi. You ever have that moment when you know something weird is about to happen? Is it here yet?
Holy crap!
Is it here yet?
Is what here?
Metroid Dread, is it out yet?
In a little bit. Yeah, I guess. It's
in a couple months?
Who are you?
What do you mean? I'm you. From the past. Can't you tell?
Not really.
Wait, do you seriously still play WoW? The year is 2005, and everyone who's a Metroid fan was loving the Metroid Prime games at this point, but rumors of a 2D Metroid were still circulating. Internal software documents directly from Nintendo leaked, and among the list was one standout title, Metroid Dread. It was around this time that I started to follow the games industry more closely and discovered things like G4 TV and the annual Electronic Entertainment Expo, or, well, as normal humans called it, E3. E3 2005 came and we were all expecting Metroid Dread to be announced, and there it was, though something's a bit off. The title says Corruption, and it's also a Prime game, and it's definitely not 2D. Who am I kidding? We all forgot about Dread when the finale of the Prime trilogy was shown, but when E3 2006 rolled around, we were there waiting once again. And then in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2019, where is Metroid Dread? Then finally, in 2021, the wait was finally over. It's important to set the stage with just how much anticipation there was. When I watched E3 2021 and I saw that white text saying Metroid 5, my excitement shot through the roof. I had accepted over a decade ago that this game was long dead. So to finally see a logo and gameplay for that title that I had been waiting 16 years for, it was kind of surreal. In honor of Metroid Dread's announcement, I decided I wanted to catch myself up and play through the core Metroid 1 through 4 games, and I wanted to make a video on them to get other people excited if you've never played Metroid, or at least maybe just caught up and see what this franchise is all about, since Metroid Dread is coming. After a lot of thought and a lot of research online, I've come up with this following game plan. I'll be playing through Metroid Zero Mission, since it's basically a straight-up remake of the original game. I'll be playing the AM2R fan mod for Metroid 2, since it's the closest to the original that we can get besides the Game Boy version, since apparently Samus Returns on the 3DS is very different. So I'll be doing AM2R fan mod, Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo, and Metroid Fusion as Metroid 4 on the Game Boy Advance. With that out of the way, let's jump right into Zero Mission and get into the world of Metroid. Let's go! We open up with Samus Aran being sent on a mission to the planet Zebes by the Galactic Federation. This used to be Samus's homeworld, and evidently some space pirates have taken an alien life form known as a Metroid to this planet, and an entity known as Mother Brain is leading this charge. And that's it. This is the story we get going in. This is the only bit of dialogue that is laid out before us until the epilogue. The Metroid series has always been about subtext, and Zero Mission knows how to set that up right out of the gate. Man, that sound is still so cool. Despite my intention of going into this video series again as an appreciation for what these games are, not what I remember them being, there are definitely going to be some elements of nostalgia that are going to slip through the cracks. Kind of like this little fanfare every time you snag an upgrade. If that sound actually played anytime I did anything remotely worthwhile, I would be the most productive human being on the planet. I might actually make content. Wow, what a world that would be. I want to return back to that subtext comment I made earlier, though. I'm holding off on going too deep into this topic since it's something that I do want to discuss further with a later title in the series. However, something that Zero Mission sets up immediately is something I like to call hands-off direction. What's an example of this, you might ask? How about the second room in the game where you already see enemies underneath the floor, in a place you're currently unable to access? Whether you stick around to try and fail to find a way through, or you just casually pass by, this is something you will remember. This moment of remembrance will be one of the greatest strengths of not only Zero Mission, but the entire series to come. The subtext that I mentioned before isn't just an observation of the narrative, but also to your direction as a player. Along your journey, you will end up stumbling upon these massive statues that will indicate a location in which you have to go. Almost always, this indicator is off in the middle of some place in the middle of nowhere that you've never explored and where your map doesn't show any detail. This is the extent of direction that you will receive, and everything else is explained in that raw, unadulterated, good old-fashioned level design. Think I might be overselling it a bit? Well, let's take that second screen again, and once you receive a power-up that allows you to break through the floor, I guarantee that you will remember this area. You're not going to remember just this one area though, but every area you've been through already where you happen to notice something currently unreachable. Whether you give it a passing glance as you ran through a room, or whether you spent genuine time and energy attempting to receive that missile upgrade and just couldn't reach it so you were forced to move on. This second room of Zero Mission is so intelligently placed early on in the game to make sure that your brain registers this idea of branching pathways and secret areas, and it's done immediately at the starting line of the journey when you're at your most attentive. This lesson isn't over yet either, by the way. How about when we get the Morph Ball bombs? In the room when you get the bombs, you clearly are shown a path that is a secret, accessible now via your bombs. This room teaches you that bombs aren't just good for breaking blocks, but can also cause Samus to jump in the Morph Ball if you stay on a bomb when it detonates. Your reward is a missile upgrade. There is no text, no narration to tell you how to do this, just the unseen hand of the designers allowing the players to learn the rules of the game via play. This little room also teaches, or at least reinforces, the idea of rewards for clever use of game mechanics. Using this newfound potential as Morph Ball bombs opens up so many possible upgrades across Zero Mission, and this room helps just give you a bit of a taste of that. It's but the first of many breadcrumbs the player will follow. This type of level design seems to be a bit of a lost art in AAA games nowadays. Designers assume you're just too dang stupid to do much of anything, let alone figure out that push button make girl jump. If you think I'm being dramatic, then honestly, watch some of the game developers' conference presentations. Much of the AAA developer talks on teaching the player are about how information can get to you efficiently rather than being taught through gameplay. You know how everyone just kind of complains about tutorials today, about how they're just insulting and they're so long? Zero Mission 20 years ago didn't have that problem. It had faith in the player's mental ability and decided to just teach them by letting them follow the breadcrumbs, like that one, and that one, and that one. Who the heck made a mess of my house? It was you! The lesson still isn't over yet, by the way. Without even having left the Morph Ball room yet, Zero Mission throws one more knowledge bomb our way. Good pun. Up until this point in the game, there are these little bugs that can get stuck to Samus, and you have no way of getting them off you besides going through a doorway. And thankfully, they didn't really seem to do much of anything, but they're noticeable. Well, back in the Morph Ball room, the door you entered is closed, but there's this peculiar pillar that can be destroyed. So we drop the bomb and, oh crap, that's a lot of bugs. Oh, and they hurt now. Oh crap, spam bombs! Spam bombs! Oof. Okay, so that's how you get the bugs off you. Good to know. And it's that moment, that acknowledgement, that now allows Zero Mission to throw more of these types of creatures at you in rooms still upcoming. The game set a trap for you, but it was to teach you a mechanic you'll need in the future, since now, with your newfound knowledge, Zero Mission can play and iterate upon this lesson with enemy design later on. When I see a game teach the player in these creative ways, I know there's something truly special on the horizon. This is the kind of stuff that we'll talk about for decades as standout moments of exemplary game design. It's these mechanics that make learning in games so much fun. Video games, through their interactivity, have this potential to teach the players of these core fundamentals of critical thinking, and it's all disguised as fun. I have a quote from Raph Koster on my YouTube channel where he says, quote, "Fun is just another word for learning." End quote. It's a wonderful observation on his part, and it's a lens that game design becomes more brilliant through. I know I'm hyping this element of Zero Mission up a lot, but despite the fact that we're not at Super Metroid just yet in the series, it's these types of practices that still have people exclaiming Super Metroid as one of the greatest video games ever made, even almost 30 years later. Zero Mission came out in 2004, and since its core concepts are similar to the first 3 games, more so than Fusion, it's awesome to see how much the team and series had learned up until this point to create this remake. Well, part of the reason I started this video series is to get everyone caught up for Dread, including myself, so let's head back into the plot of Zero Mission. This experience is not one that's focused on a heavy narrative, but instead introduces some key players and details to set up the lore of the Metroid universe. All in all, the actual plot of the game is extremely basic and simple. The opening text before the title screen gives you 2 objectives: exterminate the Metroids on planet Zebes, and defeat the mechanical organism known as Mother Brain. This is it. This is everything. The actual adventure of Metroid Zero Mission is entirely to find these 2 objectives and execute them. So how do you find these 2 targets? By playing the game, stupid! But seriously, have you ever recommended a game to a friend and the only way you can express it is by reiterating to just play it? Take Hollow Knight, for example. It's a title that is immensely influenced by the Metroid series right down to this very point I'm giving. The best thing you could ever do for someone that you want to jump into Hollow Knight is to describe the basic mechanics and then say, just play it. The experience is the narrative, and that is something that possibly only gaming can ever truly pull off. Despite that argument being true, there are still a couple moments I'd like to highlight, as Zero Mission does introduce some important characters to this world. On your first trip to Norfair, you'll get a cutscene where you're being watched by this... Is that a brain with an eyeball? I've always thought Mother Brain's design was gross looking. There's something so unsettling about it. The scene where she's watching you too, man, it makes my skin crawl as I play through the rest of the game. It's like every room I enter, I know I'm being observed by that thing, and it just never really leaves you. This type of conveyance also helps lead Metroid into something else that it does so wonderfully, and that's the feeling of isolation. It's no secret that the Metroid franchise is heavily inspired by the movie Alien, right down to the main character being a female, to the atmosphere, to the enemy Ridley being named after the director Ridley Scott. Alien is an action movie, but first and foremost, it's a space horror thriller. The tension almost never lets up, and once you start this descent into Norfair, the world continues to do the same in Metroid. After further exploration, we stumble upon an area called Criteria. I thought this was gonna be Brinstar, judging by the view of the map, but apparently we're further than I thought. At first glance, it actually appears like we've taken the wrong path. Everything is far more dangerous than before, like we're really not supposed to be here. Push through a little further though, and we stumble upon some ancient ruins where we get the power grip, which allows you to ledge grab. Nice. What is this place though? It's so clearly out of place from the natural environments that we've come through so far. This was clearly built by an intelligent species who are also really into birds. In this area, you'll unlock an unknown item, which lets you blow up certain blocks, which, I mean, I guess that's a bit weird and kind of out of place.
Something's weird and out of place. I wonder if that'll be important later.
Spoilers, yes it will be.
From here on, we're shown a location back to Brinstar. It was at this point that I noticed something a bit odd. I had so many missiles, but like no energy tanks, which is this game's health upgrades. I had received about 12 or so missile upgrades before receiving another energy tank. This normally wouldn't be a problem, but as we started to move deeper into the game, especially into the crate area after Brinstar, enemies started to hit, a little bit harder? Okay, a lot harder. I'd be exploring an area, find an upgrade, and it would be just another dang set of missiles. I don't need you anymore! Finally, I did get another E-Tank, but it was clearly one you're supposed to get either way. The rate at which you get these upgrades is it's kind of weird from here on out. I was getting energy tanks at a very steady pace later on, so this little kind of drought was a bit odd. This crate area is definitely where the game starts to really get into its own and spread its wings though. Puzzles start to be a bit more complex, enemies start to hit hard, bosses start to become giant worms that pop out of the lava out of nowhere and scare you half to death. This is a pretty fun fight where you're riding this thing back and forth across the screen to dodge this giant lava worm's attacks. He also fills the room up further with lava occasionally, so you have to dodge that a little bit differently. The animations of this boss are very clear, ensuring that any hit you take is your fault. Bumping into this encounter really sets the stage for possibly some fun mechanics to come in future bosses. Or at least that's what I thought. In order to go over these bosses, we have to do a quick run through of the game, so let's just run through this really quickly. At the end of the Kraid area is Kraid himself. After this, you return to Brinstar to get the Varia suit, which allows you to go to hot areas, go back to Norfair, then back to Brinstar again, finally into the Ridley area, and then you kill Ridley. Lastly, you unlock Tarian, where you locate and defeat Mother Brain. There's not much narrative, so I don't mind rushing this, but it's because I really want to talk about the boss design. Simply put, they suck. Really. Every one of the primary bosses is a massive letdown, with Kraid probably being the most interesting, but not by much. There's platforming involved. That's about the extent of the excitement. Every boss just devolves very quickly into spam the rocket button. There are no interesting mechanics to dodge, no unique use of the environments, nothing. That worm guy in the lava and this giant wasp thing are the most interesting bosses in the entire game, up to and including Mother Brain herself. I know Metroid isn't known for its environment and level design, but bosses this dull is really unfortunate. Like Ridley, for example. They create this dragon who's also a space pirate who can also fly his own spaceship, and his boss fight, quite literally, is spam missiles before you die. That's it. There's no use of his massive room, there's nothing to take advantage of, or any quick or clever tricks. He has no real mechanics. Just spam missiles into the dragon. That's it.
Now, you might think that I'm being dramatic, or that maybe I cheesed the fight and just spammed missiles into him, but no. I know this is how the fight is supposed to be, because up before Ridley, in this area, you get so many missile upgrades. That is game design 101. The game is introducing you items that you're gonna need in order to execute on the boss itself. So they throw you a bunch of missiles since they already know this encounter is gonna be a spam fest. But they know that, and they could have made something more interesting. And this lack of creativity is so surprising when you see how creative and clever the world and level design is.
Anyway, after Ridley, we make our way to Tarian, and this place, it's unsettling to say the least. You see a brief cutscene of some Metroids feasting on a space pirate to set the stage. That's kinda creepy. Conquering Ridley through nothing but rockets, for better or for worse, sets the expectation that you can now brute force everything. That is, until these little green parasites. You see corpses along your way, until the Metroids finally swoop in from the background and latch onto Samus. The only way to harm these creatures is to freeze them and unload missiles into their frozen bodies. But they do not stay frozen for very long. These things also aren't afraid to team up and swarm you 5v1. Fighting the Metroids is chaos, and it's a fantastic way to humble the player. Like I mentioned earlier, beating Ridley puts you on a bit of a high. As you backtrack to Tarian, you feel so powerful, going through those old zones that you've been through so many times, but this time though, with all this newfound potential, you can see how far you've really come. This is something Zero Mission loves to play with. Power. After each new upgrade, you get this burst of excitement as you conquer new obstacles, only to be humbled very quickly. That trek to Tarian, though, that feeling is a rush of unbridled potential. So when you enter this new zone after feeling like a god, and these little green parasites wreak havoc on you so easily, you're reminded yet again that this world is hostile. Humans are fragile, and these moments of Zero Mission help bring the player back to Earth, so to speak. The fight with Mother Brain is just another example of this. While not an interesting fight mechanically in any way, her room is pure chaos. It's a bullet hell on top of a boss fight. While Ridley was about spamming missiles before he killed you, Mother Brain is about spamming missiles before the environment kills you. Once you finally take her out, both of your objectives are, well, now complete. The Metroids have been killed as well as Mother Brain. A self-destruct sequence is triggered and you rush out of the planet back to your ship. That 2-minute timer during this escape seems so short. The entirety of the depths of Zebes have been explored, and you now have to make it out of there and back to your ship in a very short period of time. Thankfully, Zero Mission plays into that power mechanic once again. 2 minutes would feel like a lot, but honestly, Not now. Killing Mother Brain just drives that high right back into the player as you now need to make it out in no time. This timer and sequence isn't actually hard, but by giving you no warning and just jumping into the sequence right after a boss, that fight or flight instinct kicks in and takes right over. You naturally just want to zoom right out of here. This timer is a complete trick though. 2 minutes is more than plenty, but when it first shows up, your immediate response is questioning if 2 minutes is even possible. With the power that Samus holds now, yes, 2 minutes is totally doable as you jump into her ship and fly off Zebes, and the mission is accomplished.
All in all, Zero Mission is a fantastic time, despite the backtracking being a little bit tedious at one point and the boss design just kind of sucking. Overall, What the heck? Oh, you're ready for round 2, huh? Dude, I am Samus Aran. There is nothing that you space pirates could ever do to... Oh. Oh. I guess there's more.
Zero Mission didn't just remake Metroid. It added all sorts of new elements, be it upgrades, secrets, and even a slight reconstruction of the map layout. But most importantly, it added this epilogue. Welcome to the pirate mothership and Chozodia. Samus crash lands in this area and is without any of her equipment or powers besides her blaster. And this thing sucks. It doesn't deal damage to the space pirates, it just stuns them briefly. Well, you're lucky if it stuns them at all. These space pirates will destroy you. Each blast from them is an entire energy tank worth of health, and you go from feeling like a deity to a scared animal. There's nothing you can do besides run. If you so much as even alert the space pirates in this area, you're forced to flee and hide to hopefully escape long enough to find safety. There is no fighting here. You will lose every encounter you decide to engage in. And well, here we go again. Zero Mission playing with your expectation of power. But this time, the humility the player is served is the ultimate one. At this point, at the end of your journey, you are weaker now than when you first started. This is crushing. It's also terrifying. Making your way through this is like a horror game. As you move through the ship and off the path into these Chozodian ruins, you have no clue where your goal is. Each time you end up in a new room, there's no real purpose there other than the need to flee, and this just so happens to be where you ended up. It's truly scary, and it feels like the perfect homage to Metroid's roots in the Alien film, where the Xenomorph just forces Ripley to run further and further with no goal in sight.
This moment is shocking. This is one of the most aggressive strippings of power that I've ever seen in a video game. And this isn't like the typical abilities thing that a lot of video games do at the beginning of a title. No, I've done this all. It's at the end of the game. I have beaten Mother Brain. I have purged Zebes of all the Metroids. They just took everything away from me. And it's so cool.
True to the theme of power, we discover some Chozo wall art, and a new boss fight. One where you see a reflection of your every action in the sphere that the statue is holding. And hey, a good boss fight. It's creative, it's tense, and it has a wonderful payoff. It's still mechanically simple, but there's mechanics, so that's a pretty big net positive over something else besides that damn worm. Not only is this a cool boss fight, but we also get to see a glimpse of Samus's past. She was raised by these bird creatures, the Chozo. Now they assist her once more by unlocking all of her power. Those unknown items that I mentioned earlier that seemed to do nothing, well, you unlock a new suit, a new beam, the ability to jump forever all at once. One item alone was a power trip, and now you get 3. Here it is, that trip once more. These space pirates have nothing on me anymore. Feel my ultimate wrath. The final mastery of power ends with a battle against a Mecha Ridley, which, it's a crappy fight, and yet another escape sequence. Why? We just had an escape sequence like an hour ago, and it was perfect. It felt tense and nerve-wracking. It was the ultimate illusion. This just feels like too much of a good thing. It's like too many dang chips and you suddenly feel gross when the whole bag is gone. That illusion of feeling good is now overpowered by that gross salty feeling around your lips and the extra 10 pounds that I just put on. This ending could have been so much better. Ridley again just isn't an interesting boss choice. The escape again is just redundant. 5 minutes is, yet again, far more time than you'll ever need, but this time, the illusion is broken. Chozodia is set up to be something so phenomenal, and yet this repeat of the ending to the base game, it just feels so cheap considering how good the first half of this was.
It's such a shame, because overall, Zero Mission really owns.
While Zero Mission was a remake of the original, it was also made after Metroid 4, and is the last mainline Metroid game made until Metroid Dread. That helps this title a lot. Everything is tight and fluid. The level design is wonderful, despite not being quite as imaginative as it could have been. It also has its weirdness for sure. The Chozo statues directly guiding your path feels oddly out of place considering how everything else in the game doesn't direct you in such a gamey way. The boss fights suck, and the ending was such a perfect opportunity to end on an 11 out of 10, but just misses the mark in those final minutes and makes the whole epilogue feel like a complete waste of time. Despite all of that, the most powerful elements of a Metroid game is here. I've seen a lot of people online claim that Zero Mission is the best 2D Metroid out there, even over Super. And I can see why a lot of people feel that way. It feels raw in all the right ways. There's just enough direction to never get really lost. Well, outside that one completely BS fake lava sequence, which actually deserves a very special place in hell. It just feels like such a unique journey. Even though the Metroidvania style is still popular today, you'll never really experience something quite like a Metroid game.
I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!